Hi, folks. I am not sure if folks can hear me. If you can, actually, I don't even know who's here. Give me a little to orient. To figure how this thing works out.
Say something.
Sabah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll wait for a few minutes if other folks are coming. Until then, let me just set up my screen and stuff.
It says 2 waiting. Where are they? How do you let them in?
To waiting. Where is it?
Like here in the.
This thing says that 2 people waiting or something. I'm not sure what that means and where to not have them waiting.
Which I nobody's here.
Oh. Okay. We'll get started. We'll get started in just a moment. Hope folks can see my screen. We can. Yeah. This up. And then we have VSCode up. Okay, cool. Should we get started? I think we should. maybe get started now. Welcome, folks, to session 1 of our Live Coding Coach 2.0. We're super excited to do this thing. It's a bit of a radical experiment, but we wanted to kind of build in the open and show folks how we're re-architecting an existing relatively moderately large code base, what we're building and how we're building that. We want to demystify the process a bit, show how Khoj is evolving, inspire folks to contribute in terms of just like contributing code itself, but also give us feedback on the stuff that they're wanting us to build, the directions that they'd prefer us to go in. We do have a bunch of ideas where we want to go, but we are open to tuning the stuff or the prioritization of things as we build them. And this felt like an interesting, good opportunity for us to interact with the community while developing Khoj. So we'll see how this goes. We're just going to do this for at least 1 week right now. So every day we'll be coding for an hour on the Khoj architecture, doing one small feature at a time. And again, this is not something we've done before. So while coding should be mostly professional, don't expect this live stream, at least initially, to be too professional. Let's get into this. So I wanted to give folks a little bit of an overview of the relevant parts of the Khoj code base for the purposes of this session and maybe a session or two after, which is that we're right now, like one of the features in this re-architecture we want to do is improve Khoj's ability to look through your documents, your sync documents, and retrieve answers better for you. Until now, Khoj has had a natural language or semantic search tool, which it uses to look up relevant notes or documents you have. But we want to improve that, its retrieval capabilities further, and the class of questions it can answer. Right now, it can answer one class of questions. We want to extend it to another class of questions, which I'll get into in a bit. But for this kind of like this feature that we're talking about, some of the components in the code base that are relevant are shown in this diagram. For folks to get oriented, the main portions are, one, the tools that are available to Khoj. So again, Khoj has a default mode and a research mode for folks who've used them, which I'm going to assume for now the folks have at least used Khoj. If you haven't, go to Khoj, app.khoj.dev and try it out. But there's a research mode in there, which does a longer multi-turn process to figure out the best way to answer your question, look up all the information it needs, run any kind of code analysis, things like that, before it answers your question, right? And so the research mode has a bunch of tools available to it. Right now, there's online search. It can look like stuff up online. It can do document search. It can run code in a sandbox. And we have an experimental feature, which we will hash out more properly for v2.0, which is that Khoj can operate a computer of its own. It can operate your computer as well, but it can operate a computer of its own, by which I mean it's like a GUI, like a graphical user interface computer, where Khoj has a file system, a browser, terminal, things like that, and it can kind of operate that computer to do work, whatever work you've assigned it, right? These are some of the tools available. There are a bunch of other tools as well. But when you ask a query to Khoj, it goes through research mode. Research mode then passes your query with all the tools available to it. So the tools are dynamically selected based on some other configurations. But based on all the tools that are available to Khoj and your query, they go to this LLM provider kind of API interface that we have in Khoj. That interface turns these standardized tool formats, standardized query format, standardized document context, online context, conversation history. All these things are in one standard form in Khoj within the Khoj code base. They're passed around in that standard form. They are then transformed once they hit the LLM provider layer, by which we mean like if you're calling an open AI API or the Anthropic API or the Google Gemini API or Olama or Light LLM, whatever you have. When you're calling these APIs, they need these queries, context, tools in different forms. And so what the LLM provider API layer does is transforms the standardized tools, queries, context into the LLM specific tools, queries, and contexts, passes it to the actual LLM API. So what the LLM sees is your query, a bunch of tools it has access to, and then it decides the tool call it wants to make. And so that's the return part that you see here, where you pass the tools and the query to the LLM, and the LLM returns the tool call it wants to make. That is again in the LLM specific form when it's returned from the LLM via the API, and the LLM API interface layer in Khoj transforms that from the LLM API specific form into the standardized form that Khoj uses. That standardized form is passed to research mode. Research mode gets the tool call request from the LLM, and then it executes it using the tools it has. So if the LLM has requested it wants to do a web search for weather in Bali, Khoj then actually does that search, gets the results, and then returns that back to the LLM for deciding what it wants to do next, whether it is to call another tool or just to answer the user's question, right? So that's the kind of higher level kind of control flow of how this thing moves. And for our purposes, what we want is to improve the document kind of search experience within Khoj. So as I mentioned earlier, Khoj already has a natural language or a semantic search tool for document search. What that does is if you ask a question, a natural language question like, hey, Khoj, tell me, when did I don't know, sell my last car, right? When you ask the question, Khoj knows at least enough to be mapping the concept of a car to a Honda Civic, if that's mentioned in your notes, or like whatever, a BMW or some such, whatever you have. It understands a car is close to the concept of BMW or Honda Civic, and it'll find those notes for you. And then the LLM will be like, hey, I found the relevant notes, so it'll be able to answer your question. So that's what the natural language search thing does. That is different from the traditional search tools that we've usually had, which are more keyword based. So if I search for, hey, Coach, tell me when did I sell my car last? It can search for the keyword car in your notes. And if your note doesn't mention car, but mentions Honda Civic, it will not find that match. Whereas with the natural language search tool, it'll find that match. So that's the difference between a natural language search tool and like a normal regex search or a grep search or a keyword search. So Khoj already has that natural language search tool, and that can help it answer a class of questions. But it cannot technically answer questions which require looking through all the user's documents. So the example that I gave, like, forget LLMs. If you are a human, has been given access to my notes, and I ask you, hey, can you tell me when did I sell my last car? Or when did I sell my car? You'll look through my notes, you'll find a note about my car being sold, and you'll know the answer at that one time. You will not have to look through all my other notes. You will not have to necessarily go through all my notes. You'll have to just go through my notes until you found the relevant note. And at that point, you know that your search has ended. But there is a different class of questions. So this class of questions is called an existential question. It is looking for the existence of some item, and when it finds it, it knows that the search can stop. The other class of questions are universal questions. Those are questions that have to go through all your documents to be able to answer that question. And so a simple, even if contrived example is like, if I ask, well, this one may not be actually that contrived. Like, if I ask you or Khoj anything, tell me how many cars I've sold in my life, and assuming for our context that it's in your notes, right? Like, we're assuming right now you've mentioned all the times you sold your car in your notes somehow. Even if that is true, you will not get the answer of how many cars I've sold till now until you have gone through all my notes. Because while you could find one instance of me having sold a car, there may be more in the other notes. So if you go through all the notes and then be counting them, those are called universal questions. They require you to go through all the notes. Semantic search, the semantic search tool in Khoj, doesn't allow you to answer universal questions. Okay, so the grep tool, along with the kind of the two other tools that we built, two other tools I've already built, and this grep tool we built now, but they'll allow Khoj to answer these kind of universal questions about how many times X happened, when all did Y, did I do Y, all mentions of Z, like these kind of things. A grep tool or a view file tool or whatever can let you answer those questions. Again, there is this implicit assumption, which I'll make explicit right now. Not assumption, explicit technical constraint, which I'll mention and make explicit right now, which is that LLMs, modern large language models, do not have infinite context windows. They have limited context windows, and the more you use it, like the larger the context that you're passing to the model, the more costly, time-consuming, and quality degradation happens with the model. So you generally are technically constrained by the max context window of the model, but you're also you prefer giving it more targeted small context when possible. Otherwise, you could just dump your whole document set into the LLM and get the answers. You would not need a natural language search tool or a grep tool or a list file tools or a whatever view file tool. All of it is within the model's context. But that's not what we can do. It's not practically or technically possible. So these toolings are required to give the model the relevant context at the point that it needs it. Okay. So hopefully that's given folks kind of a little bit of why we want to do this thing, and then a little bit of context of what we're planning to build, which is the grep tool. Now, this branch, if you guys can see, I am using this tool called Magit within Emacs. This is a tool I use to for my Git versioning. So I'm going to continue using this thing. It may look a little different from whatever Git porcelain that you are used to, or if you use Git via CLI. But basically, this is showing a bunch of the previous commits I've done on this branch to, it's called support function calling for Khoj tool use. we'll not get into that right now, but for like the short version of it is, we are like this feature branch, like some of the earlier commits in this, enable Khoj to use the kind of tool use or function calling paradigm of modern LLMs instead of the custom tool use paradigm that we were using in Khoj before. But so these earlier commits, like till here, wait, not even here, these 3 commits are around giving Khoj the ability to use the function calling or tool use paradigm. If folks know that, then there should be enough context. Otherwise, you should look that up. But after that, there are these 2 are like minor code improvements or bug fix, unrelated PRs, unrelated commits. And then these 2 are these earlier tools that I mentioned are added, which was one, giving Khoj Research Agent the ability to view one file. So it can ask like, hey, I want to look at this one file whole. And this tool allows Khoj to do that. Previously, we did not allow it to look at one whole file for some reasonable reasons of context windows in earlier LLMs. But now context windows are large enough. That's one thing. And second is, we'd still limit the amount of file. If it's a big file, Khoj will not be able to see the whole file because, again, context window limits, but it can choose to see a line range within that file. So it can be like, hey, show me line number 100 to 150. And so, one second. And so, line, yeah, so the view file can be either the whole file, or Khoj can specify specific line numbers that it wants to see. And then the list files tool is about listing all files in the user's, again, synced knowledge base, or all files in the synced knowledge base under a certain path. So if you synced a folder called your Obsidian nodes and another folder called your Emacs nodes, Khoj can be like, hey, can use this tool to be like, show me all files under the Obsidian directory or the Emacs directory. And it can kind of switch between the like list files view to get a map of all the files that are available in a subpath or the whole user's personal knowledge base, and then use the view file tool to view specific files or subsets of files, and use the search tool, like the natural language search tool, to look up specific snippets. So it can kind of like loop between the search, the file viewer, and the list file view to hopefully give you to better retrieve information from your documents, to then effectively give you better information or like data analysis or whatever you want from it. So we have these 2 tools we built. Let's go to VSCode. And now we'll build the grep tool. I maybe will show you research mode, how it looks right now. There's a bunch of code here, but mostly if you glaze your eyes a bit, you will see this is the entry point of research mode. There is some setup here for like a number of documents it can look up, online searches, blah, blah. And then you enter this main loop, this while current iteration and max iteration bit, right? Wait, not highlight. Yeah, this part. This main loop is where your query comes in. Khoj passes to the LLM the query with the tools available in this pick next tool portion. So in this function, it passes your query, some of the history and stuff like that. And then within that, I think the tools are, yeah. So here you'll see the tools being set up. So the tool definition, the standardized tool definition is created dynamically, as I mentioned earlier, and then parsed to the LLM chat model API, whatever it is that you configured yourself. So if you're talking to Claude 4.0 or a Gemini 2.5 Pro or a GPT or a Mistral or a Llama 3.2, Quen 3, DeepSeek, whatever you have, all of these is decided by just this send message to model wrapper of whatever config you've selected. But for research mode, all it's doing is like, hey, ask the LLM that has been configured the query. The query has been put into this chat and research history portion. That's why it's set to null here or empty here, but it's been put into this at this portion, right? So the user asks a query, research mode goes into iteration loop, asks the LLM every time, hey, which next tool to pick, if any, and then when it's picked the next tool. So where we, yeah, in research mode again, we're back here in the iteration loop. When it picks the next tool, we execute it. So this part I also mentioned in here, the execution bit, right? So the research mode kind of loops through this part, asks the LLM the query with the tools, the LLM mentions the tool, and then Khoj executes that in here. And so that's what you see here, where this example for us is the most relevant, which is based on whatever this thing, it decides the tool, just like it finds the tool that the LLM has chosen to call, and then calls that tool with the arguments that the LLM has passed. In most cases for now, it's just the query that the LLM has asked. If it's asked like, hey, the user's asking for when did they sell their car? If we continue with that example, Khoj may choose via the LLM to ask 3 questions from the document, from the user's document set, being like, hey, what car did I have last? When did I sell my car last again? Car sold, I don't know, in 2024 or some such. It'll like ask a few different kind of queries, get results, and then decide if it found the result or if it needs to do something else. And so that in the original code happens in this portion. I have added the 2 other tools mentioned, which are view file and list file. So these 2 call the list file and the view file content functions. And again, the loop continues, right? And here we're going to just add another tool and then wire it up to kind of regex search, file search, or grep through your personal nodes. Okay, now that we've given a little more code orientation, let's go and try to implement this thing. We're going to use Cline to do this. Cline is all right, Magit. This is Magit. If you guys want to try it out, if you're Emacs users, it's super useful, but I'm guessing most folks in Emacs will know it. If you're not an Emacs user, you may still find it useful, though it may be potentially a little bit more confusing because you have to orient yourself to both Magit and Emacs. This is code base, but yeah, this is Cline. So it's an open source code project, and it allows you. Just started trying it out. I want to say like a few days ago. I've used Claude Code, this thing, and I generally end up using Copilot Chat. I've been using Copilot for a long time, but I'm also like trying to get more of these LM agents developer tools to work better for me. So we'll just ask Cline to build this thing out, and let's see how well it does that. Right, so let's just edit what we want to do. Wait, let's make sure that the code base is clean, right? Yes, we already checked that actually. So add a regex search tool to look up files from the users documents. File object is the name of the kind of DB construct we have for that. Look up files from the user file from the user's documents. It should accept an optional path. Is another thing that we've added in the other tools as well, and here as well we'll add, which basically allows it to path prefix. Path prefix should accept an optional path prefix to limit the files to search in. Right. The other thing is it should use the add, maybe let's see, create a file, a function in file object adapter to regex search using Django. Slash DB filters. Basically, we wanted to, we don't want to like kind of do the regex search in memory. We want to push down the filter to the DB itself to do the regex search. And that'll just be much more efficient for larger knowledge bases. And I have to create a function regex search. And then, all right, and then I wanted to output in results in like the grep format with like line numbers. In grep format with line number, file name, line number prefixes to the matched results. And then I'll give it the earlier commit the earlier, this file viewer tool that we built, just to give it an idea of how to wire the whole thing up with research mode. Hopefully it has enough context to kind of do the wiring correctly. See this for how to wire up the tool and look up. I think this should be good enough. Oh, I have to like mention the files here somewhere. Create a file function file under this in this function is in adapters. And where's it? Yeah, here. Okay. Wanted to know which file to look in for the file object adapter, and we'll show you, like I'll show you what's in there, but that's where like the DB calls are made, and the DB is where the user's knowledge base is stored. So that's why we wanted to add an adapter function to do the regex search. We wanted to output in grep format. That's correct. Add a regex search to look up files from the user document file object. It should. Okay, let's just go and see what it does. Gemini was being a little. Also, yeah, we are using Cline with Gemini 2.5 Pro. 2.5 Pro is pretty good, especially for coding. So I generally use that. Claude 4 is pretty good as well. Okay, let's see what this guy's doing and if it's doing anything useful. Well, it's written it in the correct place firstly. So this is the file object adapters in the adapter init file, you see other functions to query the DB using Django's ORM constructs. So this one to create a file object, this one to update the file content, delete files, all those things. And Cline with Gemini 2.5 Pro has written it in the right place, but it has not used use Django. Push down the filter, regex search. Have the DB do the regex search instead of doing it in memory, which we do not want to do, which is what it's doing here, regex search here. And it's not doing any kind of like filtering here, which is what we ideally want. So let's make it try and do that. Have the DB do the regex search instead of doing it in memory. So right now, let's see if it can handle this. This is in the case, and right, this is better. So it's done the, like here you see the raw text regex. This is what we wanted to do. That filter is now being pushed down to the DB to do rather than it being done in memory. So we get a filtered list, match the pattern. And then the path prefix is done correctly here. And then it does the line number adding bit here. Okay, this is code. So it's added like a function to find all files in the user's knowledge base. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, where Gemini calls fail are failing today. I'm not sure if it's been multiple days, but at least today it's not been that great. But anyway, what I was saying was, what was I saying? Oh, right. I think I was saying like we want to push down the filter so that it gets all right. Regex search. Maybe you can call this like search files. Well, regex search is better than, because the other thing is also search thing. Okay, let it be for now. Regex search. So it's added like a conversation command. This is, we're kind of reusing this in place in multiple, like for different contexts, which we may not want to do. But for now, this is like a enum of tool definitions. And it's also the same thing or similar thing as what you see in slash commands in Khoj when you start a query with slash. Okay, now this is been added in right here. So this is where like the tools, like the tool logic is written right now. It needs to be broken up into a bunch of different tools, but for now, a bunch of like smaller tools get written in the router/helper. And here, Khoj Cline has added the function, the tool function, and it's calling up this regex search file objects adapter with the path prefix and stuff. That is correct, I think. Right, that's correct. And then joins the results, and this is like query compile. Oh, it needs the file path as well, I think. Right, like this kind of form it needs. We'll maybe edit it ourselves and add these file path things, and we'll fix the file path. Basically, this is what, like, for now, for purposes of expedience, we will be using this mechanism, right? And then we just want to do this and then this. But basically, like, research mode has like 3-4 different kind of formats in which tool results are formed. Let me just make it go ahead while I talk. Has a few forms in which tool results are formatted. Right now, there's like for document search, we have the natural language search tool. And so we're just making the like list file and view file content and Cline even with this regex search tool is building the kind of results in the tool result format that is already kind of accepted by research. To kind of fiddle with that, we will clean that up at some point later. We just want to see if this tool gets built and if we can have Khoj use it. So this is how I think I'd shown it to you before. We are in research.py and research mode iterator, and within that, we check when the LLM has selected the regex search tool, and then we call the regex search file content function that Cline just wrote. And this is the document results format that I was mentioning. It expects it in this specific form, and later on, it also expects certain fields, like the file field that I'm added. So for now, we're just keeping it like that. It's not too big a crime to keep it in that form because it mostly matches what the other tools, like file search tools or file lookup tools do. But it's added this tool and called, like when it finds that the LLM has requested that tool, it calls the regex search file content function and then just formats it in the form that is appropriate to give it back to the LLM as like, hey, you asked for this tool, you requested this tool call, these are the results. And so those results get collated here, here, which is good. This looks fine. Then I think it's mostly done unless it has to wire another place up potentially. Oh, I think it thinks it's, not sure why it's not fetching, but I think it's doing something now, but let's just see what's up, what all is done till now. So, okay, so there is, 4 files are what I expect, where these things are getting required to be edited. One is the adapter, the object, the part which interacts with the DB, calls the file object table with the user and the regex pattern that it needs to look up, and then also adds the starts with path prefix, right? So this one is the actual like whatever in Khoj layer, the bottommost portion, which is filtering, like applying the appropriate filters on the user's knowledge base, returning that to this function via this file object adapters regex search file objects. And then this one is just formatting that into a format, the document results format, which this function is then, this nice thing it's done here, truncated for too long. We've done this in other places, but it's nice that it's also copied that mechanism. We do a little bit more in this formatter, but I'll go up and fix that in a bit. But yeah, like this function then like formats it in the appropriate form, and then the research mode calls the above function, and the rest of it is like, these are just like kind of like wiring up the tool names. This part is kind of important, which is what the LLM, like this is the standardized tool call. And so this is what the LLM will see. Like this tool call will get formatted into the LLM specific format, but basically this is specifying like, hey, these are the, like this tool does this to search for a regex pattern in files, optionally limit the search to a path prefix. So that tells the LLM what is the tool about, and then what all parameters it can kind of tune for the tool. So the regex pattern to search for, and then path prefix, optional path prefix to limit the search. And then this required part just tells the LLM that this thing, if you're going to choose the regex search tool, you do need to like you're required to pass a regex pattern. You're not required to pass the path prefix. This all looks good. Let's just start this up. And oh yeah, Cline claims it's completed its work. I think it's done a decent enough job, even though we had to try a few times. But this was a decent attempt, and let's hope that code will start up, and then we can start to like test out how well it does. And let me also look up at if right. Hey Cam, what is up? What if Cline had an OpenAI spec in context? What? I'm not sure what you mean. Open API spec in context. Could you clarify what you mean? To write to oh, I see. The file parameter that I added was not part of the like it's not required by the Khoj API. It's not in that context. It's kind of in the middle layer. So there's the Khoj API. There's the middle layer where all the like code changes that we've done right now are, which is around like research mode, getting a bunch of tools. And then that's interacting with the DB. So like the open API spec won't be particularly relevant here, but yeah, when you're writing API, like if you're writing forms which need to be turned into a specific API response format, then that would be relevant. Yeah. And I don't know whether there's like a way to like add a context for like the whole conversation. Maybe this bit does. Yeah, I don't know whether you can add like, hey, always refer to these specific things. Maybe there's some way to do it. But like, yeah, like mostly the questions are, oh, it's the first button, the add button. I see. Paste URL, maybe you're like, but I think this is the same as like doing the add mention here. Like that's what it's doing. So we could do it either way. But yeah, adding permanent context would be, yeah, the add sign. So that's the same thing as what I did here. You can do a bunch of things, including like paste a URL in, I think, or a folder or a open API spec on device. Okay, Khoj is running right now, so let's just try and see if that grep tool that we added works. Where are we? Okay, sure. So I've created this person library, and it doesn't have access to online search for our purposes right now, just because we are trying to test out how the like document search portions function. So I've just created a small agent for that, and then I'm going to ask it the. Oh, I should have done well. We'll do it later. But what I should have done is like I wanted to show how it does the lookup without the grep tool, and then again how it does it with the grep tool, just so that we can kind of see some of the differences. But let's just go and see like if it even is able to make the call to the grep tool at all. Okay, so this search documents bit is the normal natural language search that Khoj already can do. You can see like, this is my question, Khoj, or like the LLM underneath chosen a bunch of questions that it well, let's answer the question. Let's just see where we were. Right. So it asks queries of your knowledge base. And so these are the questions it's asked. And then it's found 5 nodes across 5 files using natural language search. This is actually, I think, as you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the 5 tools, are the 5 documents where Olama is mentioned. We've just done like a search for Olama in our documentation, where I've limited to .md.mdx files. This is the same set of information that is indexed with Khoj here, apart from this bean count file. So, right, technically for this question, Khoj was able to, without using the grep tool, actually, it didn't use the grep tool, look up this information. But let me, for now, just try and force it to use the grep tool. Oh, and did we use research mode? Oh, we didn't even use research mode. Also didn't have access to grep. Okay, let's try again. This time with research mode, person librarian, and like let's go and see if it did an Olama code docs here. Now it's asked a bunch of questions, and then I want to put a breakpoint in the adapters thing here. Maybe here. So it's found again the 5 files. When I was testing without having built the tool, it was returning 2 files. It's okay, so it continues to do this thing. The one interesting bit, the main part. Okay, so it did a regex search again. Wait, it's doing regex searches, but it's not showing. Oh, because the error. Okay, let's stop this guy. So it tried to use a regex tool with the async for. Where is this async for coming from? Oh, here, async for, which is. Let's just split this. Yeah, let's just split this thing up because I want to anyway not have much of the. Yeah, this is what I want to do. Much of like the in-memory kind of logic in here. Mostly this should be limited to like querying the DB for whatever's required and then returning them. Maybe they do a little bit of work, but not too much. That's fine. Yeah, so this is good enough. And then here we can put this thing in. This can be called file objects or something. And then this can become, yeah, this. Okay, great. And then we don't want to return results here. Okay. Let's now try again. The async is gone anyway, and then we've also cleaned up the like separated the logics where they need to be. One thing I was mentioning was like, even though like right now, like, so I killed it, that's why it went oops. You can see here it was trying to search for regex Olama and failing. Then it tried to view this file. Then it tried to do a regex search for. Oh, what happened here? What have we done wrong? Thanks, Cam. Yeah, negative examples are useful, I guess. We have not done any prompt formatting. This is just the Cline Gemini 2.5 Pro doing that part. We're just trying to show how this thing is wired up. But those are very important things of giving more descriptive tool definitions, which where were we at? Here. Oh no, not. Wait, let me just open Magit and right here, like in this tool definition portion, like you'll see the other ones that this one, like the view file thing. I've added a little bit more description here of what it's up. For the list file, we have not done that. But for this like regex search, we need to do a lot of disambiguation because there is another document search tool already here, the notes part. So we need to kind of like divide and tell the LLM like, hey, use the note search tool for when you want to look up stuff, like I said, of like the existential questions nature, and use the grep tool when you, or the regex search tool when you want to go through all the documents for specific keyword and stuff like that. So we need to disambiguate that. But right now we're just seeing like if the wiring is correct or not. Maybe I'll spend like a few more minutes on trying to debug this, and then we'll wrap this session up. Give me 2 seconds while I go through the. Oh wait, this was not the issue anymore. The issue was in here. Wait, I think we do this query. Let's simplify this for now. There's a query here, there's a query here, and then we'll just query like this sync to async. Oh, wait, that is correct. And then how are these guys used? This is how they're used, which is also correct. And then this is async function, and that returns a list of file objects as we expect. This is a file object. So text is correct, and then file name is also correct. Let me also look at while I'm sorting up the application just to see if the error happens again. Just to see we having in our get on stage changes. Oh, is it this guy? It's not doing a wait. In helpers. Wait, what is this about? Blah blah something 2897. Let's go to that. 2897 here. Oh, it needs to yield and return, and then we also should put a breakpoint. Okay, maybe that was the issue. This should return list of dictionaries or string. That's correct, or a list of strings. Is it returning list of strings? This yield return paradigm, like kind of pattern is for async, like a generator kind of model or iterator model, which is like when you're trying to use things like in this form within async for, you need that yield return pattern, and we are using these async generator iterator patterns throughout, coming from the API down towards the DB or the LLM, and then back up. We do these async iterators everywhere, including in research mode. Oh, it started up. Okay, so that was the problem. And then let me just copy this guy, delete this guy. It's not there already. Okay, it's not there. And then try again. And then I just want to check. Should I just let it do its thing? Use the grep tool. Use the what was it called? Regex search tool or something? No, regex search tool. Regex search tool. I'm just like explicitly telling it to use the regex search tool so that we can verify. Okay, so this is fine. This is fine. So we don't particularly care for these. Maybe. And then where is it called here? So we come in here. Okay, it didn't find any files. That's not great, right? Because Olama. Oh, okay, no, this is fine because it tried to search with a path prefix, which there's no path prefix called Khoj in this thing. Oh, because I said Khoj documentation, maybe. Let me try again. It's more like the LLM, like the prompt tuning and the LLM kind of getting what we're doing. But I just want to verify if the grep works at all. And then we'll kind of like, yeah. Wrap this up. Wait, why is it showing me this? Oh, because it's not started up. Let's go. Okay, it started up. Let's cool, no references, that's fine. Okay, research mode. In my notes or something. Until you found results or something, until you found results, so just a second. Some results, just to kind of like make it not early terminate. Okay, what did it do? Okay, it's found file objects. This is great. So we've at least had the DB lookup happen correctly. Okay, and then we just want to go here and see if the results come up fine. Yes, they do. So it's found it in 3 of the files. And then okay, so we've gotten the in the 4 files, I guess. We've gotten it in the 4 files that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It needs to be in 5 files, but it's found it at least in 4 files. And I wanted to like differentiate between like how the grep tool is doing it versus, even though it found out in the previous tries with the natural language search tool, the problem is it doesn't actually know, and the LLM doesn't ever know, but you can at least be a little bit more confident or not confident, where in the current Khoj, whether Khoj Cloud, locally, whatever it is, even if it's saying it's found all the references, it actually cannot technically know that it's found all the references because of the limitations of how the natural language semantic search tool works with confidence thresholding. that this grep tool bypasses stuff we already mentioned earlier in this live stream. But when you get the results with grep tool, the idea is at that point, you're much more confident that it's found all references. So because when it's doing grep, all the results it gets are definitely are from an exhaustive set, having gone through all your documents, unlike the natural language search tool. And so that's the kind of difference. The LLM, of course, has a tendency to be a lot more confident or overconfident about what it has found. But the tooling allows us to match what the LLM gives to the kind of like quality bars that we wanted to reach. And this is where, with a little bit of prompt tuning, we can make the model understand when to use which of the two search tools, apart from the list file and the view file tool, to get us results, which are firstly more like they just find the results better. But secondly, when it uses a grep tool, for answers which require like universal questions versus existential questions, if it's used the grep tool to a universal question, the probabilities of it actually having found the right answer is much higher. And of course, you can verify all the kind of tools it's used and stuff like that using the train of thought that Khoj exposes. Okay, great. So we've got this working. This is awesome. To summarize what we went through, I'm going to stage these things and commit them. For now, what we went through was first give an overview of why we're building this thing, and where in Khoj we're building it. So to improve personal document search, we're building this thing, and the grep tool allows us to differentiate between questions which require us to look through all your documents, which is when the grep tool becomes useful, versus questions which require you to look through like enough documents till you find an answer, and at that point you know that you do not need to look up anything further. And so that was the context of why we're building it. We use Cline to, with a little bit of debugging and cleanup, be able to search using the regex tool and find answers through your documents. We also have the other example where, while it didn't have, that thing went away. But anyway, the previous kind of run where it used the list file and the view file, I think, to go through a few of the files, is like the other tools that it's able to use now and get you answers better. So again, this is in a feature branch. I'll push this to the Khoj, like the Khoj repo, so folks can play around with it and like try it out. Maybe you can leave comments, suggestions, whatever it is, on the branch, maybe, or maybe you can discuss it on Discord if folks have any comments about the changes. But I'll like push this stuff and we can try again tomorrow. Thanks, Emacs, for the win indeed. I have not decided what we're going to do tomorrow. I'll mostly post what we're going to do on the Discord, I think. We may continue with this tool, like this tool as in like the knowledge base traversal bit. I'll think this through and I kind of let you know. Hope folks got something out of it. It was interesting for me. And we'll continue tomorrow. Hopefully I'll need less prep time for tomorrow than I needed for this one. See you, folks.